Ms. Donchez, Mrs. McVeigh, and Ms. Goodwin for helping with my speech too. If there's one moment in time that I can vividly remember, it's the second that I walked into GA for the first time without my mom's hand firmly in my own. There's this vibe that just comes with the first day of school, one that never changes no matter how old you get, where the sky seems a little bluer than usual and the walls are buzzing with energy. It's that feeling of a new year, a new start. It's something that I'll always love about coming back after a long summer. But that year specifically, there was something terrifying yet thrilling about being the new kid. Would I make any friends? Would anybody notice me? I can almost perfectly recall the second that I joined circle time and introduced myself. It's kind of funny. Although everyone was staring at me with eager, interrogating eyes, in that big circle, I already felt like I would be able to fit in. That was all I wanted then, of course, to fit in, be normal, make friends, show everyone that I could tie my shoes and color inside of the lines. At the age of 7, it felt like such a huge accomplishment to be able to color inside of the lines, didn't it? But now, looking back at that time, was it really such a good thing? The one problem about coloring inside the lines is that it limits you. It creates boundaries. And at the end of the day, you end up creating the exact same picture as the person sitting next to you. It's the second that you start coloring outside of the lines that you create something different from everyone else. That's when you are able to show what you are capable of and make something beautiful. The second that you start coloring outside of the lines, you become an individual. Going through school is a lot like coloring, actually. You learn your limits and your boundaries. In lower school, you teach yourself how to color inside of the lines. In middle school, you learn that it's okay to go beyond the boundary. And in high school and onward, you have to learn how to draw on a blank sheet of paper. Do you ever remember trying to color correctly, but you accidentally go way past the line? I know I do. Although I was close with a few people, I always longed to make more friends in second grade. I didn't know anyone, and I figured the more people who accepted me, the more normal I would be. So, on one fall afternoon at lunchtime, I was sitting at my assigned table trying to make small talk with people whose names I didn't even remember. No one really noticed me though, and the few times that I tried to join in on the current conversation, my comments made absolutely no sense. They only earned me strange looks from everyone. I've never been more frustrated with myself. So there I was, pointlessly tearing the crust off of my sandwich and playing with the spoon in my yogurt when an idea came to me. Glancing around innocently, I dipped my sandwich right into the strawberry yogurt and took a bite. It was absolutely disgusting and probably one of the grossest things I've ever tried, but everyone turned to look at me. With curious and questioning gazes, they asked me, "What are you doing?" I smiled to them and nonchalantly responded, "Just enjoying my lunch." And again, I dipped my sandwich in the yogurt and took another bite. And another. Everyone was so shocked and surprised that they started asking me questions about it. And soon, I was part of the conversation. At that moment, I had to admit, I was pretty proud of myself. It wasn't until about an hour later that I realized I wasn't being recognized as the girl who was part of the crowd, as much as I was known as the new kid who eats weird things. Of course, that passed quickly, but I learned from that experience that it would have been much better to have been myself than try to impress everyone else. Instead of merely coloring a little bit past the line, by trying too hard, I ended up going way past it. And then, in 4th grade, I found my 2 best friends, Ashley and Mila. They accepted me for who I was. They loved me for me, and the best part was that I didn't have to dip my sandwiches in yogurt in order to impress them. Ashley and Mila taught me my very first lesson, which was that by coloring outside of the lines and being yourself, you can meet some really incredible people whom you can lean on for years to come. Still, the concept of being ourselves and going beyond the lines was far too new to us, and we spent the rest of lower school attempting to fit in. We yearned for what was categorized as popularity. Later on, I learned it was more like conformity. Honestly, I felt miserable when I tried to fit in. I felt constrained, unaccomplished, like I was living a life that someone else had created for me. Then came middle school. During these 3 years, I really learned how to balance everything. I taught myself that it was okay to color outside of the lines. With my 4 friends, Ashley, Mila, Paulina, and Sabrina behind me through everything, we learned what it was like to be ourselves together. When most people think about being an individual, they instantly think that you have to do it alone and that people won't accept you for it. That's definitely not true at all. With loving friends, you should learn about who you are with their shoulders to lean on, even if you end up being completely different from them. I know for a fact that all of my best friends are so different, but that's what makes us happiest. Sure, we tend to be loud sometimes, but we are ourselves. Sorry about that. Whether we are joking about something ridiculous or trying to figure out what the L in Mr. Kamali's name stands for, which, by the way, turned out just to be the letter L after all, we color outside of the lines together. We create different pieces of art without losing track of who we're supposed to be. And because of the fact that we, as middle schoolers, have learned how to both color outside of the lines and color inside the lines without losing control, is why we're ready for high school. It's time for our boundaries to disappear. Time for us to be handed a blank sheet of paper. Now it's our turns to create our own future, and it starts next year, because we know who we are, and we know what individuality means. Thanks to the wonderful foundation that we've built, we're ready to start setting ourselves up for the future. So to every middle schooler going into 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, remember that it's okay to be yourself. Remember that coloring outside the lines isn't a bad thing. In fact, escaping from the crowd and showing who you truly are is what turns you from a faded drawing into a masterpiece. Leave your imprint on this school. Let your artwork hang from the walls while others stare in awe, because at the end of the day, you'll have no regrets.